A lie is the catalyst that will start the war. But what if it's a good lie? Is it still just as destructive? Well, in the case of the Corleone family, it was. In our video about Vito Corleone, we explained how he got his start in the US Mafia, which led to him becoming the head of the Corleone family. We also mentioned how he had a son when he was 64 years old, which meant that unlike his brothers who were married and had started their own families, he could pass down his criminal empire to his youngest son, Michael. But this wasn't without its issues. For example, Sonny, Vito's eldest son, resented the fact that his father had chosen Michael over him as his successor. And when Vito was shot in an attempt on his life, Sonny took matters into his own hands and went to war with the Barzini crime family, all because of a lie. Now, before we get into this, there are many different theories out there for why Sonny started the war with the Barzini family, but we found one that was more compelling than the rest. So let's explore this theory further and see how it all fits in. It all starts with Connie Corleone, Vito's daughter and Sonny's younger sister. She was engaged to be married to a man named Carlo Rizzi, but her fiancé was actually a member of the Tattaglia crime family, which was one of the 5 families that made up the Mafia Commission. Now, if you think that we were being a bit too convenient by throwing in a fiancé from another crime family, well then you'd be right. But this is exactly what happened in real life. There were several inter-family marriages between the 5 New York families, and these marriages were used as a way to solidify alliances and maintain peace. Fortunately, this marriage didn't have that effect. See? Connie was only 17 years old when she married Carlo at age 21. He was already a capo in the Tattaglia family, so the age gap was pretty significant. And although Connie was consenting, some people thought that she was too young to make such a big decision. Her father, Vito, was one of those people. He didn't like the idea of his 17-year-old daughter marrying a man who was not only almost 7 years her senior, but was also a hardened criminal. In fact, he hated the idea so much that he threatened to kill Carlo if he went ahead with the wedding. This put poor Connie in a tough position because she loved her father, but she was also in love with Carlo and didn't want to lose him. Ultimately, though, she chose her fiancé and the two eloped. Now, if Connie and Carlo had just run away and gotten married in secret, well, maybe nothing would have come of it. But that's not what happened. Instead, Carlo told his cousin Paulie what had happened. And Paulie told his boss, Don Barzini. The reason for this is unknown, but it might have been because Barzini had ordered Carlo to end Connie for marrying against his family's wishes. Or maybe Paulie just wanted to impress his boss by bringing him the news first. Whatever the reason, Don Barzini was furious about the marriage, and he wanted revenge. That's because Connie's father, Vito Corleone, was the only person who could prevent him from expanding his power. As we explained in our previous video, Vito was the only Don who refused to accept the Commission's offer to legalize the Mafia's activities. And if Vito changed his mind, then Barzini would have become the most powerful man in the Mafia. So you can understand why he was angry. When Vito's daughter married his enemy's son without asking him first. Now, Vito had no idea that Barzini was even aware of the marriage, until one day he received a message from Barzini, demanding that he allowed Connie and Carlo to get an annulment. Now, there are 2 possible scenarios that could have happened at this point. In the first scenario, Vito simply told Barzini to go F himself. After all, it wasn't his daughter's fault that she had fallen in love with a guy from another family. He probably felt that Barzini had no right to tell him what to do. In the second scenario, Vito went to Barzini's house to try to smooth things over. Maybe he offered Barzini a business proposition that would benefit both of them, or maybe he just apologized for his daughter's actions and hoped that would be the end of it. But neither of those things happened. Instead, Vito was ambushed and nearly killed by Barzini's men. Now, if you've seen The Godfather, then you know that Vito was shot in the head, but survived the assassination attempt. However, in real life, Vito was shot 3 times in the stomach and left for dead. Luckily, he survived and was able to make a full recovery. But it was clear to everyone that this was an attempt on his life. And since everyone knew that the Corleones and the Barzinis were rivals, it was easy to guess who was behind the attack. So now it makes sense why Sonny would have gone to war with the Barzinis. But what does Connie's husband Carlo have to do with any of this? Well, after Vito was shot, he wasted no time in starting a war with the Barzinis. Even though he knew that they were better equipped for a war than the Corleones were, why did he do this? because he wanted revenge for his father-in-law. Of course, he could have just waited until the Corleones had taken out the Barzinis, but he wasn't willing to wait around and find out what happened. Instead, he went straight to the source and tried to kill Don Barzini himself. But he was unsuccessful and ended up getting killed in the process. However, there is a twist to this story. See, the Corleones weren't the only ones who lost someone important during this war. Barzini also lost his right-hand man, Paulie Gatto. In fact, Paulie was killed by none other than Michael Corleone, who was supposed to be staying out of the family business at the time. This means that Michael broke the code of silence and went against his father's wishes by killing Barzini's right-hand man. To add insult to injury, he also killed Carlo, even though he was related to the Barzini family. So it's clear that Michael wanted to end the Barzini family as quickly as possible. But why would he do that? There's a theory that Michael killed Carlo because he was jealous of the relationship between his sister and brother-in-law. Keep in mind that when this happened, Michael was single and had never really been in love before. He saw the passion between Connie and Carlo and couldn't help but feel a little envious. Plus, he knew that his sister was going through a tough time after her marriage caused a rift between her and their father. So he may have killed Carlo out of jealousy, or perhaps he just wanted to protect his sister. Ultimately, though, it doesn't really matter why Michael killed Carlo, because it was his actions that pushed the Barzinis over the edge and caused them to declare war on the Corleones. And even though Sonny was the one who officially started the war, it was Michael who won it for the Corleones, that is. Because he was able to infiltrate the Barzini family and take out key members until eventually Barzini himself was left with no choice but to flee the country. As far as Connie is concerned, she ended up getting an annulment from Carlo after his death and married a man named Marco Bellardieri, who was also a mafia captain. Sadly, though, she died in 1955 at the age of 38 due to a brain hemorrhage. As for Carlo Rizzi, he was actually based on a real-life mafia captain named Joseph Barbera, like Carlo. Barbera was married to the daughter of a mafia boss, and he was killed in a gang war that resulted in the death of several other mafia members. However, unlike Carlo, Barbera didn't die by gunshot. Instead, he was strangled to death by a woman named Stella Di Tacco, who was the mistress of a rival mafia boss. So was it a good lie? Well, yes, it was a good lie, because it accomplished everything that Vito Corleone needed it to accomplish. It gave him enough time to grow his criminal empire and eventually become the most powerful mafia boss in New York. But it also created a rift between him and his oldest son, which ultimately led to the death of that son and the death of Vito himself. In addition, the lie destroyed the lives of several other innocent people, including Connie and her husband Carlo. So yeah, it was a good lie, but that doesn't mean it was a harmless one. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out our other videos about the Mafia. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any of our new videos. Thanks for watching.